Hello, everyone. This is Wes Miller with Pigskins and Pageantry, a podcast dedicated to all things SEC football and proud member of Blue Wire Hustle. Join me, Jesse, and Matt each week as we discuss last week's games, news around the league, predictions for next week's matchups, and more. And what's up, everybody? It's Wes. Bowl season has come and gone. Our football playoff semifinal games have come and gone, and all we have ahead of us is the national championship. That's all that's left. And then what? The off season. I mean, like, how did we get here this fast? It seems, but we're here to talk about all those bowl games and make predictions about the national championship. But first, as always, introduce you to my wonderful co-hosts. First, Jesse, what's going on?
You know, just currently trying to avoid the Rona so that I can enjoy watching Alabama play on Monday, and really trying to deal with mentally and emotionally the fact that the outcome that I did not want to happen has happened, and we have to face Georgia again. And I don't necessarily love that.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
Yeah. Matt, my friend, how are you doing?
I think we can tell how he's doing.
This is my hell. I'm
for those of you who can't see, Matt, summarize your background.
Well, over here we have a nice volcano. Behind me, you can see the boiling lake of death and damnation that apparently we've got going on. So, as you can guess, sports fans, I'm in hell. This is hell.
I was gonna say, is this some like artist's rendition of like the Lake of Fire or something like that?
I literally Googled hell, and this is like the third picture, and I was like, I can't. Here, I'll get out of frame so you can really take this in, because it's an amazing picture. It's really good.
Well, at first I thought you were going like some kind of like Lord of the Rings Mount Doom vibe, but then I saw all the bodies floating in the sea of lava, and I was like, well, I think that's going to be a little bit different. So yeah.
But their hands are up, which I guess they're like drowning. But like also it looks like they're like, this is fine. Everything's fine. No, it's fine.
It's like the Elmo gift where the fire's behind him and he's got his hands in the
air.
That's the state of Tennessee football right now. That's the state of my fandom of college football in general.
Oh man. Well, we'll get there quick enough, but let's go ahead and start with the first bowl game.
Always remember, if you ain't first, last.
All right, first we had Missouri versus Army. That was the Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl. Army won this one 24-22. I got 2 points in this one. Don't forget, each one of these is worth 2. The semifinal playoff games are worth 4 apiece. So interesting about this one is Mizzou opened up their quarterback competition after Connor Bazelak's struggles. Brady Cook won that starting job as a freshman, so that was kind of an interesting development as things got underway. Tyler Beatty sat this game out, which his presence was sorely missed, but can't blame him. He's getting ready for the NFL. Mizzou, they got off to a fast start in this one, leading 16-7 at half, but the second half was mostly dominated by the Army, even though the backup quarterback, Tyler, had to come in when Christian Anderson, their starter, went down late in the third. Tyler threw a touchdown, and then Mizzou answered with one of their own, taking back the lead 22-21 with a minute 11 left in the game. But then Army marched down the field, and yes, pun was intended there, marched. Haha. Wait, I got it. Yep. Yeah.
That's where we're at tonight. Okay.
And yep. And Cole Talley hit a 41-yard field goal as time expired to win it. So, not off to a great start here. And as we'll talk about, SEC kind of struggling. But anyway, Jesse, what are your thoughts on this one?
You know, Toughness Tuesday does not stand up to patriotism, is what we learned. Truly. No, I mean, the Tigers went in, their secondary was shorthanded, and I think it showed. Then they lost multiple players in the first half. And I wondered too, I know they said they opened up quarterback competition, but with Connor Bazelak entering the transfer portal, I have no doubt that has something to do with it as well. But Army only threw one pass in the first half, and it was good for 42 yards. And, you know, They were 5 for 8 in the second half for 53 yards. So really their running game is kind of what took them there. They entered, Army did, the Black Knights as they are called. They entered this game 128th out of 130 FBS teams at averaging 94.8 yards per game. So not huge, but big enough to beat Mizzou, who is struggling and has been all year and barely made this bowl game. But yeah, they were able to snap, Army was able to snap a 7-game losing streak against Power 5 teams with their first win since 2017. So very interesting there.
Well, Matt, you called it. You liked the matchup. Missouri has been horrible against the run this year, and that's what they do. So what were your thoughts?
First off, I want to go on record as saying I'm glad Missouri lost this game. My hate and vitriol for Coach Drinky, I think, is well established. So there's that. And like I said, I mean, we know that Missouri's run defense, was terrible. And Army delivered. That's a run first team. It's a run only team practically. So
yep.
You give up 211 yards on the ground. You're not going to be able to be very successful at stopping them. So I was a little shocked it was as close as it was. I was expecting Missouri to give up, not score as much as they did, but here we are. So SEC off to a rousing start this bowl season. So more to follow.
And it would only get worse from there. The one that we watched together, UCF versus Florida, the Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl. UCF taking this one 29-17. Matt gets the 2 points for this one. He's the only one to pick UCF. So congratulations, Matt, on there.
Trust me, I don't feel any better because when you get to the bottom of this thing and you see what the actual margin is, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. But so this was Emory Jones's last game with Florida before he enters the transfer portal. This game, I think we called it. I expected this one to be sloppy all around, and it kind of was. Florida defense, again, couldn't really stop anybody. UCF getting 436 total yards. They found themselves in a shootout, which is with Florida, the way they've been just erratic this season. They can't afford to get in that type of situation. And they couldn't keep up in this one. Florida led 17-16 with 7:57 left in the third, but UCF scored the final 13 points in the game to win it. So just Florida, just not really much in the tank down the stretch. So Matt, let's start with you this time. Your thoughts on this win for UCF?
I feel like there was another adjective you wanted to throw in there, and you were going to say Florida game, but we won't do that. It's hard to win a game when you look at the stat. I'm a stat guy. I like looking at the stats. The stats tell you the story of the tape here. When you look at the stats, you can see how Florida lost this game. 2 for 13 on third down. That's abysmal. You give up 288 yards rushing on your defense, 150 yards practically on passing. You have 8 penalties for 85 yards, and you lost the time of possession. That the only way you make that worse is if you throw a couple interceptions, which they didn't do in this game.
Right.
But this is a Florida team that I think was, I hate to use the word unmotivated, but I feel like that might be what it was. Don't really feel like they really had anything to go here. And it kills me because this is a blue chip SEC team and they didn't show up. They didn't show up at all.
Yeah. Jesse, your thoughts?
Florida, are y'all okay?
No.
Are you?
Not right now, anyway.
Are you okay? I mean, check on your friends. Check on your friends. They have probably already resigned themselves to basketball season, but I'm just saying, y'all need to check on some people. And Gus Malzahn, honey, what did Auburn do to you? He has aged.
He looks awful, doesn't he?
That was such a surprise.
Aged. It's like we were talking about the picture of the president when he goes into office,
right?
And then when he comes out, and you're like, oh.
Well, how many years has it been? It hasn't been that long. I looked at that
first
when we saw him on the sidelines. I was like, I feel like a ton of time has passed, but it's only been like a couple years, or if whatever. So
not even. He
just
got that job.
Yeah.
I don't know, but He looked rough, much like the entire Florida football team.
He got fired from Auburn in 2020.
Yeah. So
So
that's,
it's not been that long. He's spending too much time in the sun.
maybe that's what it is too, because
he's
it
spending
lightens,
too much time in the sun.
lightens up the hair.
He's in Orlando, so he's probably having to take the grandkids to Disneyland every time.
Right.
Disney World, excuse me. Disney World. I know my wife's going to give me hell for that. Disney World, probably too many times. Universal Studios. I mean, he's probably got an annual pass, so
Absolutely.
I get it. I get it. He's spending a lot of time at the beach. Yeah.
I guess.
No doubt. I mean, yeah. So he was already starting to go a little gray, but then the sun just lightens that right on up, So
It's gone.
It's that bleach blonde look, but it doesn't work when you're pushing 56.
Right. So no
offense, Gus. Love you, buddy.
I hesitate, as much as I don't like Florida, I hesitate to make fun of them because games like these always have a really weird feel to them. It's like you're watching a team that's really down right now, but at the same time, you understand that they also have a lot of hope because they've just made a big hire. They're expecting big things. And so it's like this interim waiting period of, oh yeah, we're going to suck for a little bit. The bowl game is probably not going to be the best, but we're just going to get through it and then wait for next year. So,
I mean, that happened when they hired Mullen too. And look where we're at.
True.
I was about to say, and I hate to sit in judgment on head coaches because I absolutely adore head coaches, especially when they come out of interesting schools. But Billy Napier, I don't know if I'd call home run hire, but that's just my personal opinion.
Right. Obviously Jerry is going to be out. But with what we've seen, all we can judge is what we've seen. And especially when you take a team that's considered to be a lesser power in the country and do really well with them, that certainly speaks to something. So, but will it translate? We'll see. All right, let's talk about Houston versus Auburn in the Ticket Smarter Birmingham Bowl. Houston won this one 17-13. Guys, we're not off to a great start here.
Wait, Wes, can you give me the name of that bowl one more time? I forgot what that was.
Ticket Smarter Birmingham Bowl.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I forget what the
Here,
stadium.
Birmingham is lovely this time.
I forget what the stadium's called. It's like Protective something Birmingham, whatever. But when you say the whole thing, it's a mouthful. Anyway, Jesse,
not to interrupt you, Wes, but can
No.
you imagine you're a college kid, you're really jazzed up about the fact your team might be in a bowl game, and
yeah,
you find out you're going to Birmingham. No offense to Birmingham, I'm sure it's a lovely city, but
it is literally like an
Woof.
hour and a half tops, probably just an hour away from Auburn.
right.
that's got to be disappointing for an Auburn.
Just
That might be
straight
why they
up
lost this bowl
280.
game. That might be why. Because I mean, yeah, we get to go to Birmingham.
Literally straight on up 280 and you are there.
Yeah. I don't know. I honestly don't know what to say about this one. I mean, obviously, Jesse, you got it right because you picked Houston, but my gosh, like this one like had the same kind of feel, that we were talking about for those 4 straight losses for Auburn, and that they had a chance to win at the end. And they let it slip away. Again, Auburn's offense really struggled to find momentum early on. They were down 10-3 at half. They made it 13-10 in the third, and it really seemed like, I even remember the announcers saying, it really feels like the momentum has swung Auburn's way, like everything, the ball is bouncing Auburn's way. They're getting the breaks. But then it just like stopped. They couldn't keep it going. And ultimately Houston got that momentum back with a 26-yard touchdown pass from Clayton Tune to Jake Herslow to put Houston up for good 17-13. So I don't know. It's really hard for me to evaluate this because I know, Harsin, is still getting things kind of figured out. But the way that this team finished down the stretch, it looks like a team that just doesn't know how to close out games. I don't know, Jesse, what do you think?
I would agree. I mean, I think we haven't seen that progression in this Auburn team that people wanted to see. Obviously, it's his first year at the helm there, so it's hard to judge. I'm reminded of 2007 Nick Saban yelling at us to trust the process. I get that. But at the same time, this seems to be a reoccurring problem, not just with him at the helm, but also when Gus Malzahn was there as well. So just something that I don't necessarily know how you fix it, but should be corrected quite quickly. And, Houston, good on them. They got their first bowl since beating the then number 9 Florida State in the Peach Bowl on December 31st of 2015. Haven't had a bowl win since then. So good for you, Houston Cougars. And it's like you said, Auburn just let another one slip away. And that has got to be super discouraging. Obviously, they were without some key players that were either hurt, or someone like Bo Nix, who is both hurt and transferred. So a lot of issues happening there. And hopefully they'll be able to make some big moves in the offseason to correct those. But you can't have games slip away from you like this. You can't have leads that continue to disseminate as the game goes on.
Right. Matt, what do you think?
This is an Auburn team that lost 5 of their last 5. They have not won a game since October. So that's a pretty rough stretch. And I think I agree with Jesse. This does seem like a team that can't close out a game or doesn't know how to. And I think that comes down to coaching. They got blown out by Texas A&M. They lost to Mississippi State late. They lost to South Carolina, who we already talked about South Carolina. And they hung with Bama for a minute, but then that fell apart.
Let it slip away.
And I'm worried. That comes down to coaching. And the other thing is, when you have an athlete like Tank Bigsby, who had 164 total yards in this game, 1 reception for 51 yards and 1 run for 32 yards, like, you should be beating somebody, but defense couldn't get the job done. So as an Auburn fan, if I was an Auburn fan, which thank the good Lord I'm not, but if I was an Auburn fan, I would be a little concerned, about what's happening here, because Auburn,
Gus Malzahn is laughing.
I guarantee he laughed his butt off. Yeah, I guarantee he watched this game. I guarantee he did.
Do you think he goes to
viewing party?
Do you think he goes to Waffle House not only after a win, but also after Auburn losses now?
Yes. And you want to know why? Because they're still paying his salary, so they're paying for him to go to Waffle House.
Wait a minute, he got hired. Those sort of things usually have a condition to where when you get hired by another school, you don't get paid anymore, right? Surely,
I know, it just depends on
by Auburn.
Depends on how it reads, I guess.
I bet the IRS loves him.
Oh yes. All of these guys who are making hand over fist. Yeah.
I just hope Auburn still has to pay him. That's all I hope.
Have one of those Bobby Bonilla deals where we.
Yes. Oh, Bobby Bonilla was so smart.
It's going on for like 100 years or however long.
What is it? He gets $1 million every. Is it like March 3rd or something like that? From now until
really
like 2025 or something like that.
Yeah, I know. I just know that they post it
Day.
every year on Bobby Bonilla Day on ESPN's Insta or whatever.
Yep.
Like, happy Bobby Bonilla Day, everybody.
July 1st.
For those of you who don't know who that is, go look it up right now. It's important.
Bobby Bonilla played for the Mets. The Mets signed an awful deal. He gets paid I just looked this up. He gets paid $1.19 million a year. From the time he signed that contract in 2000 till he's 72. He is currently 58.
Oh my. Like, that's just brilliant though. What a great deal.
It's so good.
Oh my goodness.
We're going to be talking about that for a long time to come, for sure. All right. Well, yeah, again, not a great, the SEC continues their not so great streak here.
We're currently 0-3.
Right. And as you're keeping tabs, I was gonna say we're not done yet.
But wait, there's more.
Mississippi State versus Texas Tech in the AutoZone Liberty Bowl from Liberty Bowl Memorial Stadium in Memphis, Tennessee. Texas Tech won this one 34-7. 34-7. This, like, how we were talking about, because of all the legal stuff going on between Mike Leach and Texas Tech. We were like, yeah, I bet he circled that on his calendar. And while he may have, it appears that his team did not. Defense didn't really show up. Offense couldn't really get going. We've kind of watched Will Rogers do well for most of the season. But he was held under 300 yards for the first time in 10 games in this game. They were talking about Texas Tech just really dominating in the trenches, and they really did in this game. on both sides of the ball. Mississippi State, they showed some signs of life throughout the game, but ultimately the wheels fell off. You could kind of feel that coming along in the second half, and they imploded. So, let's start with Matt. What are your thoughts on this poor performance?
How's that? It's either a Vine or something where you go, "Oh no, baby, what is you doing?"
Yep.
Yeah,
Mississippi State, what is you doing? Because this is a game that I feel like all of us picked Mississippi State. I felt like this was a game they were going to be able to win, because this was a Texas Tech team that went 7-6. They finished 7th in the Big 12 this year, which isn't exactly the most stellar conference on the planet to begin with. And they absolutely dominated Mississippi State, which makes no sense. Just awful football out of Mississippi State. You only get one touchdown. Hey, I'm a little shocked. Granted, there were some yards put together. I mean, Mississippi State still got 344 total yards. But just you can't. It's awful. I hate that for Mike Leach, because we were wanting Mike Leach to get a little bit of revenge after the whole Texas Tech litigation stuff, and that didn't happen. That didn't happen at all. I mean, Will Rogers still threw for almost 300 yards, but he, that's low compared to what we've seen out of him this season. So I don't know what happened to Mississippi State.
I can tell you what happened. They continued to turn over the ball.
No, that's true.
They had 3 turnovers. I think this is a Mississippi State team that we've continued to see has issues with turnovers. And until that gets wrapped up, it's not going to matter. I will say, this is obviously, we're in a weird time still where COVID is a factor, and we'll talk about it later about teams being affected by it. How affected are the teams by it? But Coach Leach said that his team was struck with COVID issues shortly after arriving in Memphis, and he never considered pulling his team out of the game. And after his news conference post game, he said that he estimated 10 or 11 players were affected, and that he was committed to playing the game anyways. So is that actually a factor? I don't know. I don't know if that's an excuse. I think it's an easy excuse right now for teams to use, because it makes sense. You say, like, we were affected by COVID, and who's going to say that you weren't? But I think it might be the turnover monster and not so much the COVID monster.
That's a good point. And yeah, they struggled with turnovers. The defense gave up a ton as well. It's just like they couldn't stop anybody. So put those things together, and not a good recipe. So speaking of recipe, let's talk about the Mayo Bowl. North Carolina versus South Carolina, the Duke's Mayo Bowl from Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina. Yeah, how about South Carolina? 38-21 victory. Jessie gets 2 points. She's the only one to pick South Carolina. I wanted to believe, Jess. I really did. Like, I wanted to pick South Carolina, but I didn't. I should have. I was shocked. Like, they're really able to control line of scrimmage on both sides. They allowed 128 yards rushing while gaining 301 yards on the ground themselves. So just kind of showing out there. Obviously this helped control the clock too, which, obviously was something that you're going to want to do. And then they were just able to kind of dominate. So, hey, what a great win for South Carolina. Jessie, your thoughts, since you had confidence in them.
I had confidence. I believed in Beamer. I did. And it paid off. And I understand that has not always been the case, but I believed this time. What an exciting win for that program, especially after getting Spencer Rattler, who, again, we're going to see how he pans out. But I think there's a lot of momentum in attitude and in the locker room that's kind of propelling this forward. I think there was some smart coaching, like you mentioned. Controlling the clock is huge in games like this, but really exciting for South Carolina. Their fans are hyped. They're on it. I am on the ground. I'm in it. South Carolina fans are super
awake.
Jazzed. They are awake. They have been awakened. So exciting for them. I do not support the post-game waste of Mayo, though. Duke's Mayo is so good. It is so good. And I just need everyone to stop pouring it on themselves.
It's mayonnaise
weird.
abuse. It's not a joke.
It's mayonnaise abuse.
Yeah.
Mayonnaise abuse.
Just how much?
Don't do it.
I mean, how many mouths could you feed with that? You know,
That was a vat of mayonnaise.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a jar. It was a
So it was as
vat
big
of
as him.
mayonnaise. It was,
they crashed on his head, by the way, when they right before
They
before
conked him
dumped
pretty
it.
good, didn't they?
They did. I mean, I get it. If you have gum in your hair, sure,
Yeah.
use the mayo to get gum out of your hair. That's pro tip right there. But don't waste it. Don't.
Some of the other stuff is a little more tolerable, although still a waste. Like I was watching some
Stop
of
dipping Oreos in the mayo.
Oh no!
Oh, gosh, yeah, that was
no,
another one.
Stop it.
No, we every day we get further and further from God's light, and that's a great example. I don't know what they were doing there.
It was so bad. Like, oh man, I can't even. Matt, what are your thoughts on this game?
I mean, great win for South Carolina. This is South Carolina, or excuse me, a North Carolina team that finished 5th in the ACC Coastal. So not a fantastic ACC team, but you know, it's still a bowl win, even if it is the Duke's Mayo Bowl. So kudos to Beamer coming in your first season, you get to a bowl and you win one. That's got to be a positive sign for Carolina fans. I don't know why we're getting excited about Spencer Rattler, but whatever, y'all do you.
I think they're just happy to have somebody.
I'm happy, but
They're just happy to have someone who's
you're
not a graduate
absolutely
assistant.
right. You're absolutely right. So yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say other than something I did see that was, you know, Kevin Harris going off for 182 yards. So that was a good little show for him. So something to build on. I mean, there's, you know, next year. So maybe we're gonna hear Sandstorm playing at the Georgia Dome next year. Or excuse me, the Georgia Dome. What is this? 2001? Maybe we're gonna hear Sandstorm played at the Benz next season.
I was gonna say, people still say the Georgia Dome. I think for a lot of people that's just kind of default because, you know, for years.
Yeah,
but,
that's what happens with the White Sox. Everybody everyone says Comiskey. Nobody says guaranteed rate field. No one's ever gonna say that.
Right. Yeah. It's what you need, especially if it flows off the tongue better than, you know, some.
I really hate, this is my own personal opinion though. This is not the viewpoints of Pigskins or Packers. I can't stand it when they have like the TransUnion Stadium or Sunbelt State, or like they have corporate names for stadiums. It's awful. Well, please come up with something more original.
But I guarantee you, if you owned that stadium and somebody paid to have their name on it, you would be cool with it.
But what fan is going to be like, oh man, I get to go to Atlanta and go to SunTrust Stadium or whatever it's called now.
Truist.
Like, and then they go, oh wait, I could just bank there too. That'll be great. Nobody does that. So why do that? Like, nobody ever like woke up one morning and went, I think I'm going to start banking with Truist, because they named the stadium for the Braves. Nobody does that.
Right. Although it might make you curious, because I guarantee you some of the stuff, I remember old, you know, baseball stadiums. What was it? 3Com Park or whatever it was.
Was that Reds, wasn't it?
Maybe it was at one point, but I think it used to be like San Diego, didn't it? Or maybe it was, I can't remember. It was somebody out there. Baseball fans, hardcore, who know all the stadiums, are yelling at me right now. But anyway, I just remember being a kid and hearing that on the video game I was playing and just being like, what in the world is 3Com? And like looking that up. So, hey, maybe if nothing else, it builds curiosity. Anyway,
you know, they're already doing it with college stadiums.
Yeah.
Louisville.
Yeah. It gets
Kroger
you a lot
Field.
of
it
gets you a lot of contractual elements that you can build in when you're a title sponsor. I could go into it. I used to manage a sponsorship for the A's for one of my clients. You get a lot of stuff, and if you're a brand, your employees get a lot of benefits too, and you can also offer things like if you sign up for a card, then and you're in that area, they'll be like, oh, well, you get every ticket you buy is, you know, points on your card or whatever. I won't get into it. It's not
that's
anybody
fascinating.
outside of marketing. It's
probably lots of swag bags too, right?
It's ruining the game, by God.
So many swag bags.
Now get off my lawn.
I don't necessarily support it. It just used to pay my paycheck. So
As far as getting stuff dumped on, I think I'd be more cool with the Cheez-It Bowl than the Mayo Bowl.
Yes.
So yeah.
Have the Mayo Cheez-Its are gross.
Well, at least you can like wipe the Cheez-Its off
That's
easy.
true.
will
That's
not.
true.
And maybe
And Dabo Sweeney already looked like a Cheez-It in his outfit, so it just worked.
I was just waiting for him. I was just waiting for him to go like this and just like pick one off his shoulder and be like,
And eat it.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Anyway,
Sorry.
we've gone off the rails already. All right.
Dude, we've been off the rails for 4 years now.
That's
Like,
true.
there's no,
And that's
there's no
what
rails.
that's what I love about this show. Anyway, yeah. Anyway, Tennessee versus Purdue in the Trans Perfect Music City Bowl from
You should have said a trigger warning. You should have
Nissan
issued one. Should have issued.
trigger warning from Nissan Stadium in Nashville, Tennessee. Yeah, Purdue won this one 48-45 in overtime. Nobody got the point. Matt, I know. I'm sorry. As a matter of fact, I have thoughts, but they're not going to be as detailed.
No,
they're not going to be as detailed as yours. I'd rather just listen to you and what your thoughts are.
Well,
For those of you who can't see, Matt is pointing at hell behind him once more.
Yes, I am, because that is exactly where we ended up as a result of this game. And I'm being hyperbolic. It wasn't, I don't want to call it a bad loss, because I mean, this is a Purdue team that, you know, stood out. They beat oh crap, I forget, Michigan State, I think it was, during the regular season. They had a couple of wins in the, you know, quality wins. So I mean, this wasn't a Purdue team. It wasn't like we lost like some 2-10 team or something. But this game gave me palpitations. Tennessee came out in the first quarter like they usually do, and just absolutely dominated, put up 21 points in the first quarter. I sat back and I just was like, all right, good. We're going to roll out of here like 52-16 or something. That'd be great. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. After that, Purdue decided to get their act together. And so we went into the half down by 2 points. So it's 21-23 at the half. And so we just looked bad on defense. We made a couple really crucial defensive mistakes. There was one play where I can't remember the kid's name for Purdue. He caught a ball and he had like 4 Tennessee players around him and he almost got tackled, but the guys gave up on the play and then he took off down the sideline. That was in the fourth quarter near the end. And it was just a lot of back and forth. I mean, Tennessee got 666 yards total offense in this game, but they also gave up 627 total yards offense.
It's not funny that you said you're in hell and it's 666.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, we had 288 yards rushing in this game, 378 yards in the air. We only had 1 turnover to produce 3. This was a game I feel like we should have won, and we should have won by a wide margin. But the problem is just our defense in the second half could not stop their pass game. I don't know why. I don't know what was going on. I'll come back to the officials in just a second. But
okay, I was going to say, are we?
Oh, don't worry, we're going to get there. I felt like this was a game we should have won. Unfortunately, it went to overtime, and I think everybody is aware of what happened in overtime. I'll come back to that when we talk about the officials. But again, there were several instances in this game, and I want to be very, very, very clear about this. And Vol Twitter's probably going to get mad at me if they ever hear that we say this. Tennessee lost this game. Tennessee had multiple opportunities to win this thing before we got to overtime, and we didn't capitalize on those opportunities. There were several instances where Hendon Hooker threw deep balls when he didn't need to throw deep balls. He only needed like 5 or 10 yards. He's throwing 20-yard bombs. Again, I'm going to chalk that up to inexperience. I'm going to chalk it up to coaching, that he did it 3 straight times. But I digress. There were a couple other instances where we should have had this game shot down in the fourth quarter. That wasn't the case. So for the overtime starts, Tennessee gets the ball. Obviously, we lost the toss because that's Tennessee's luck for you. We had to go first. We get 2 fourth down. We make our first 4th down conversion. Coach got super aggressive. We go for it on 4th and 1, which, by the way, I loved that call. There were a lot of people that were really upset with that call, but I appreciated Josh Heupel's aggressiveness, because I feel like he knew that they needed to put this thing away. And I think he was absolutely right. And I really wish that had happened. So they do a little run. punches in the end zone, we score. Oh, wait. No, he didn't, because the officials called the play dead and said his forward progress was stopped. Now, let's talk about the officials, shall we? Like I said, and I was very clear with this, Tennessee lost this game. There were too many instances where Tennessee should have won the game. However, this was one of the worst officiated games I've ever seen in my freaking life. The pass interference calls on the outside, there were not just one, not just two. There were 3 separate pass interference calls that were called on Tennessee that weren't pass interference. They weren't. If you wanted to call them pass interference, then you should have called pass interference when somebody grabbed Cedric Tillman's jersey and they pulled it for 4 yards. They didn't call that one, though. Not to mention that I've never in my life seen a running back still churning his feet get called down by forward progress was stopped when he punches the ball through into the end zone over the goal line. That was the worst call I've ever seen in my life. That officiating crew was terrible. Awful.
What conference were they from?
ACC.
ACC, yeah.
Did y'all know this is the same group, the same officiating crew where that whole Duke, I think it was Duke, North Carolina controversy that happened earlier in the season? It was the same freaking crew. So, track records there, the evidence on the field's there. The officials played a part in this. And one of the Tennessee players tweeted later that, it's hard to beat. What was it? It was 11 versus 18, I think. 7 officials, obviously. They're not wrong. And every major outlet that you look at, for the most part, has said that was a touchdown. And I'm pretty sure that if Tennessee's given that touchdown, they win that ball game. Because Purdue was not able to move the ball much in that first overtime. It's the reason why they had to settle for 3. So it is what it is. I was really upset about it the day of. If we'd recorded the podcast that night, you probably would have had to have bleeped every word I said. Because I was
man, we're just getting the E rating.
I was hot to trot that night. I think I blew up y'all's phones with all kinds of stuff.
Oh, Wes and I texted each other separately, and we're like, we just don't say anything to Matt. I was like, I think it's best to just leave it alone.
You could have said anything. I wouldn't have got mad. I think at one point I tweeted out, "Someone throw the effing mustard." I was.
We wanted to check on you, but then we knew the answer to our question.
I was hot to trot. So yeah, this game. It was a great game. It was a fantastic game. A lot of back and forth. I feel like if our defense had played just a smidge bit better, we probably would have won this game by at least 2 touchdowns, but it just wasn't meant to be. So we just keep going.
Right.
I think the ACC refs saw the SEC refs and they're like, hold my beer.
That's probably what happened, much to my chagrin.
Yeah. This is one of those where if you're not a fan of either, it's a spectacular game to watch. But if you're a fan, it's excruciating. Jesse, your thoughts on it?
Just to bring in maybe a little happiness, the Vols set a single season record with 511 points, topping the 484 scored in 12 games in 1993. So congrats there. Yeah. They also brought out a record crowd of 69,489, topping the previous mark of 69,143 set in 2010 when they played the bowl there last time.
Wow.
I know.
By the way, cool. I do want to point out that was probably the worst conditioned field I've ever seen in my life. And I don't know who's running Nissan Stadium, but they need to really reevaluate what they're doing with their field, because that thing was slippery and it looked like crap.
But I think the only thing to say really about Purdue is their coach came out and said that they had a lot of wide receivers and they were able to tap into that depth and spread the ball around. And obviously their quarterback O'Connell was really able to connect with those guys. You saw it, they put up 627 yards or total offense, but a lot of that being in the air. So yeah, Purdue, we joke about it and I always say Purdue don't. And of course they're a joke in the Big Ten as well, but they are the one team that can trip people up. You mentioned Michigan State. So it is one of those games that you have to be careful, even when you're playing out of conference. But yeah, it was a cool game as someone who's not a fan of either, but definitely felt for the Vols after watching that call. But I 100% agree with Matt. I think anybody, when you have a game that is scoring that high on both sides, you can't just blame one call for losing it. You definitely have to look at the entire performance and really gather what you can, and clearly defense was lacking there. So agree with that.
I wasn't surprised.
We're all in agreement that was a touchdown, right? Okay, good.
I don't
Wes!
know.
Wes!
I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to say no, but I'm not going to say yes. Hold on, let me get there.
Wes.
We talked about Wes and I
I've-
talked about it. We went back and forth for a bit.
I mean, I watched that replay like 20 times just because I wasn't sure.
Those that can't see, Matt's gone.
Matt is gone. Yeah. All I'm looking at is flaming bodies
lake of
in
fire.
hell. Yes. Anyway, that was a lot of points. I wasn't shocked. So I figured Tennessee was going to score a lot, put up a lot of yards, put up a lot of points. I was not shocked by that. I was shocked that Purdue was able to do the same. And Matt, you said the same in more colorful language during the game about Tennessee's defense. And I was honestly really surprised at that. Kudos to Purdue for showing up, because honestly, they came into this game struggling with some big injuries, specifically the All-American defensive end and wide receiver. Brock Thompson, who needs off-season surgery on both his knees, apparently filled in at wide receiver and got 7 catches for 217 yards and 2 touchdowns. So honestly, don't know how dude did that, needing that, but I don't know. Maybe he had some shots of the good stuff in his knee. I don't know, but anyway,
He'll probably never play football again.
I was gonna say, or yeah, just complete reconstruction of those knees in the off season. Okay, so the replay. I watched that thing I don't know how many times. And I completely agree. Oh, Matt's gone. He didn't
Goodbye.
He didn't just like get up from his screen. He actually left the meeting. Here's
Continue. I'm listening. I could see both ways. I'm saying I think it's a touchdown because if I were a Tennessee fan, or if this were my team,
absolutely
I'd be advocating for it.
Of course,
I can see why some people would say it's not.
100%. If I was a Tennessee fan, I would be angry at that call, because I would say exactly what Matt said. Yes, his legs were still churning. He still was moving. But then, so when I was watching it, you can see, and I understand that referees are not referees are not robots. So I understand that, because if I was looking at the replay, I see him running in from the sidelines like he's going to spot it short. And I don't even know that he'd blown the whistle yet at that point.
Nope, there wasn't no whistle.
Right. You can see him running in, and then the whistle comes later. So I don't know if he just, tried to blow the whistle and just got short of breath, or I don't know what have you, but it did look like he was kind of running in already. I understand why they wanted to mark him short, because his momentum had been stopped. However, he wasn't down. His knee wasn't technically down. It's one of those deals where it's just like, gosh, I see how it could have gone both ways and so close. Matt, if I was in your shoes, I would be very angry about that. If I was on Purdue's side, I would be like, oh yeah, it's a great call, whatever. So I
don't see how you can make that call in that sort of situation in an overtime game, how you're going to call that play dead.
Right.
Like even
I do
an outside effort here. It's just
I think in that situation, I would rather see the ref just let a play go.
Right.
I agree.
But that's what replay's for. Replay's intended to where you let the play, and then if you need to go back and reverse it, then you go back and reverse it. You don't just Zebra should have kept it in his pocket there, because that was
right. Yeah. No, I agree with you on that one. Okay. So let's talk about some of our CFP semifinal games. First was
for those that are following along at home, though, that is the first, or South Carolina is the first SEC win.
Yep. Just one.
Yes.
Right,
just the one.
Just one right now.
Like 1 in 5, I think.
Is bad.
Yeah. Cincinnati versus Alabama in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic from AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. Bama won this one big, 27-6. So really odd situation. Matt and I both had the same differential. I think, I forget who was, somebody was on the high side, someone was on the low side, but it worked out to be 7 points both ways. We took a poll before we figured out, who was going to do what, to see how the points should go. And we were going to do it where both people got the points. So Matt and I both got 4 points for that one. But anyway,
Then let me have that one, could you, Wes?
sorry, man.
I
So
know.
like I did with Matt, Jesse, I think you should go first in this one. Obviously, you're going to have a lot more detail for this one and a lot more thoughts. So what you got?
I feel happy. I think I was saying this before we started the show, but I'm happy with a Bama win regardless, but I was very happy to win over Cincy. So now we can just shut that door. We can close that conversation. I think we can do so feeling good about it, right? That we know they wanted to play with the Power 5 teams. They played. We saw what happened. But we were really doing what we could to minimize the impact of their cornerbacks. They have a couple standout cornerbacks at Cincinnati, Ahmad Gardner and Kobe Bryant. And pretty much succeeded for the most part. I think this was the first game where I truly felt like Alabama's run game was finally back to the run game we have seen in previous years. And we just hadn't had that this season. Brian Robinson was back. He was rushing 26 times. And Bryce Young was throwing a lot of short passes, safe passes, which is what I, as a Bama fan, have wanted him to do for a long time. Of course, when he lobs it down the field, we're really excited. But I think those quick, short passes are really effective. And it's not something that we get to see a ton of. So I was really happy when Bill O'Brien decided to start calling those plays. But we were able
Jesse, did you say
to
you were happy with Bill O'Brien?
this once. Just
Wow.
once. Just this once.
Right.
That's it.
We're gonna get that on,
Yeah.
on recording.
Nope, never saying it again. But yeah, we were able to do a lot and really keep the ball away and keep the defenders on their toes, and really mix things up for them, because it's not something that I think they prepared for. It's not something we've done a lot of all season, so you can't really watch a lot of film on that. Their quarterback was sacked 6 times, and outside of a 9-yard run on the opening play of the second half, never got to run all over us, which is something he's known for. So that was awesome too, trying to contain him, making sure that he couldn't scramble on us. He was 17 of 32 passing for 144 yards. Now let me get to my QB. Let's talk about Bryce Young. Bryce Young, your Heisman winner, if you did not remember that. He's 20 years old, sophomore little babe, little bud.
Oh, God,
And
Jesse.
he has a chance as a 20-year-old to become the 5th Alabama quarterback in 13 seasons to win a national title as a first-year starter. That's nuts. A first-year starter. That's insane. Obviously, Mac Jones did that last year. Jay Coker did that, I'm pretty sure.
Oh gosh,
Oh,
I almost
gosh.
forgot about him.
Right. I know most people forget about Coker. I did too. But just amazing stat right there. He completed 17 of 28 passes for 181 yards in a playoff game, which is huge. Again, as a first-year starter, as a Heisman winner first-year starter. And yeah, we're really excited. 4 weeks after setting an SEC championship game record of 421 yards passing in the win over Georgia, and 3 weeks after being the first Crimson Tide quarterback to ever win a Heisman. So this Bama team is setting a lot of records. They're quite special, and I was really excited to see us adapt and kind of change up some things, like I said, on the run game, and start throwing those short passes. And our defense did a great job as well.
Jesse, the only thing that was missing from that was you putting on this. I know these aren't shades, but putting on the shades and going, "That's my quarterback."
That's my quarterback.
Oh man, Matt, what are your thoughts?
Since he has been sent back to the kids' table, like I said they were going to, I don't want to hear any more conversations about how non-Power 5 teams should be in the playoff until we've expanded it to 8 teams. Then you can talk to me about it. But no, Cincinnati doesn't. And I think we said that was going to happen. I think I had the high score there, Wes. I think you had the low score.
Yeah.
So yeah, I knew Bama was going to beat that rear end, and that's exactly what Bama did. You can't expect to hang with the big kids when you don't have the tools that the big kids have. Cincinnati showed up with a water gun. Everybody else had like knives and stuff.
So I
That's what it was.
No,
I mean, that's the way it works. Cincinnati couldn't hang, and they
But-
didn't hang. Hence the reason why they lost by 21.
So I hear what you're saying, but Michigan got the same treatment. So
That was listen. Khaki Pants didn't get his steak and milk that day or something. I don't know. What
yeah,
happened to
that's
that.
true. That's true.
It was too hot. It was way too
That's true.
hot.
As I did hear that too. I don't want to jump the gun there. Anyway, for this one, I don't have a whole lot to say on this one. Obviously, Bama dominated. But I mean, I think I even texted you guys late in the second. Jesse, you were in your cocoon of taking in the game and not wanting to say too much, and not get too crazy. But yeah, it felt like at the end of the second, going into halftime, it was about to be a bloodbath. You could just get that sense that things were about to go really bad for Cincy, and they did. So yeah, not even close. So do they not belong? I don't know. Gosh, I don't know who's to say, but obviously, the Bama showed up and had a point to prove as well. So, all right. So let's talk about the second semifinal game, and that was Georgia versus Michigan in the Capital One Orange Bowl from Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens, Florida. Georgia winning this one 34-11. I got the points in this one. I was really pleased to see Georgia come out and take control of this game pretty much from the start. Michigan's only touchdown against Georgia came against the backups with less than 5 minutes in the game. So Stetson Bennett. So he's got a lot of talk, both some good, but a lot of bad. Some of it's been me. I'm not going to lie. Some of it has been I have doubted him. But, Stetson's used to that. He's used to being doubted. He had a great game through the air and on the ground when he needed to. Threw some absolute dimes. You're watching the, ball placement where he threw some balls, really great throws for most of the night. Still a few head scratchers every now and then, but for the most part, good ones. It's really kind of amazing. Like I just said, what he's been through. It's not like he's just gotten there and he's just being doubted this season, right? Like he's been at Georgia for a long time. And like he's been doubted the entire time when he was there before. Then he went to JUCO. And when he came back, he was doubted then, again, due to his small size and, perceived weaknesses and stuff. But, honestly, all he's done is just kind of use that, I think. And he continues to make plays and leads the Dogs to a national championship and earned the Orange Bowl MVP in the process. And if you just want to look at the stats, I mean, he went 20 for 30 for 313 yards and 3 touchdowns. And like I said, he had some scrambling yards in there as well to make him dangerous that way as well. So I thought it was interesting. Kirby Smart refused the Gatorade bath at the end, which I thought was pretty cool. He's like, no, I'm not celebrating right now because we got a lot of work to do. We got more stuff to be done. So we're not going to celebrate this right now. This is what we should do to get to where we want to go. So, Matt, you're shaking your head. Let's start with you first. What are your thoughts on this one?
Jim Harbaugh is back on my crap list.
Oh, yeah.
He had one freaking job to do here. One job with the best Michigan team that's existed in like 15 years. And a 23 loss to Georgia and making Stetson Bennett look like he's Bryce Young. This is unacceptable. I'm very disturbed. I'm angry. I'm perturbed. I'm disappointed. Wes, I love you. I love you to death. And I want great things for you.
But
God almighty, the absolute last thing I want to do is celebrate a Georgia national championship. I would rather see Bama win the next 15 straight.
Wow.
See Georgia.
And Bama is Tennessee's more natural rival.
And
what's the deal?
Fine. But I've become desensitized to Bama winning national championships. They've won 45 in the last 20 seasons. I don't care. The hate and vitriol I have for the University of Georgia has no bounds. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
And I wish nothing but hellfire and damnation on all of them. I'm sorry, Wes. Again, it's not against you. I wish to goodness you were another fandom, so I wouldn't have to feel. I feel guilty. Like when I have bad thoughts about the University of Georgia, the second thought I have in my head is I feel bad for thinking that because Wes is a Georgia fan. I legit do. But
well, I appreciate that for what that's worth. Yeah,
100%. This is the last thing I wanted to happen. I was
You
not
should be
pleased.
scared. You should be freaking out right now, Jesse.
I am.
You know how
I'm
hard it
keeping
is
my
to beat.
composure.
You know how hard it is to beat a team that you already played once in the season, twice in the same season. Tennessee LSU in 2001 is a prime example of why you don't want to play the same team twice in the same season.
Yeah. Yep. That's where we're at. Also,
Well-
I hate Georgia so much. So
Flames,
much.
flames all around my face.
Flames. Flames. I hate them so much. And now, honestly, khaki pants. If you can't do this, go to the NFL. Go back.
Please.
He
Go
might
back.
be. He might go.
Yeah, he's probably going to go to the Raiders. You have let me down. And I had low expectations for you, but you let me down. And I think it's rude. First of all, I think it's very rude. And I don't want to play Georgia again. I don't. We're going to. I'm not excited about it. And to all the Georgia fans listening, before Monday, don't text me. Don't talk to me. On Monday, honestly, on Tuesday. Let's just say the rest of 2022, we're not on speaking terms. I don't want to talk to you. Wes, this doesn't go to you.
I was going to
And
say,
honestly, Jack,
the holidays are going to be really awkward, Jesse. So
I know. And honestly, Jack Lunam, it doesn't go to you either. You both are lovely humans and the only Georgia fans I actually like. The rest, don't talk to me. I don't talk to you.
Yep.
Even
Yep.
if Bama dominates,
Cosign.
I don't talk to you.
Cosign.
Well, my only hope, and we'll
Sorry.
talk about this later,
all I
but
got.
my only hope is that Georgia and Hope have been going to couples therapy. So I'm just hoping that they're moving through some of their issues, but we'll talk about that later.
Jesse, what are we gonna do if they win this game?
What is this we stuff? What
Like
Honestly,
how are we supposed to be okay with this? Wes, just
I think I'm just gonna
mute-
start
just
hosting
take your headphones
holidays.
off for a minute. Me and Jesse need to have a conversation.
Yeah.
Like, what are we supposed to do if this fandom wins a national championship? They already talk too much crap as is.
I think I have to delete the internet,
Oh my god,
the whole internet.
I don't want to play this game.
I don't either. We did it once.
But you know,
That's all I needed. And now I have to do it again. And it's just a lot of pressure.
yeah.
My mental health is at stake.
Although a lot of people are angry about the rematch, but you know, honestly, if you don't want the rematch, you should be really mad at Auburn because they're the ones who had the chance to really put this thing away. And if they beat Bama, we're probably not having this conversation.
What are you talking about? Auburn's our last best hope. Because if it weren't for Auburn, then we would be looking at a coronation next week, not an actual game.
Maybe.
Who would they
Hey, look,
be
no,
playing?
no,
They be
no,
playing
no.
Michigan? Are you telling me
I
Georgia?
don't know.
We just saw what happened with Georgia,
Right.
Michigan. Who would have been in there in that spot instead of Bama? Who was number 5? I don't remember. Was it Oregon? Who was it?
Gosh,
It
who was there?
Yeah.
Shoot. Hold on. No.
Yeah.
Dang it. I can't remember.
It was,
How quickly we
I think
forget.
it was Oregon.
Yeah. I don't know.
So you would have had oh god, you would have had Michigan at 1, you would have had Georgia at 2, you would have had Cincy at 3, or maybe those two would have been flipped around. Cincy at 3 and Oregon at 4. So you would have had Georgia, Michigan in the national championship game. And that would
no. Number 5 was Notre Dame.
Oh, even
Even
worse.
worse.
Oh.
It was it went Notre Dame, then Ohio State. Yeah, because remember Oregon had that big loss at the end, so
Oh,
they
that's
dropped
right.
way down. So no, it was Notre Dame, Ohio State, etc. But
See, I'm in the lake of fire now. This is where I'm at. I'm swimming in the lake of fire because God help us.
Well,
Bless this. The title of this album needs to this episode either needs to be "Swimming in the Lake of Fire" or it needs "They Brought Knives." Your choice.
I can't. Just the visual of just swimming in lava there is just all right, I'm not going to get bogged down here. Anyway, all right, next Penn State versus Arkansas, the Outback Bowl from Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, Florida. Arkansas winning this one pretty big, 24-10. So SEC showing up in a game outside of the semifinals. So I got 2 points for that. Yeah, both these teams, like in the first half, were struggling to get things going. Arkansas apparently was ready to play in the second half, though, and they scored 17 points to Penn State's 0. So yeah, I mean, like another great performance, and how about that Razorback defense? Barry Odom getting them ready, shutting them out in the second half. What a turnaround for Arkansas, guys! Like in 2020, they went 3-7, and then this year they finished 9-4, their first 9-win season since 2011. So yeah, I mean, that what a turnaround. And honestly, I can't remember who went first last time. So who wants to go first?
Jesse can take it.
Go for it.
Okay. No, I mean, KJ Jefferson had his streak of 171 consecutive passes without an interception end on his second throw of the game when Jair, I hope I'm saying his name right, Jair Brown picked off, like I said, the second throw in the first quarter. Jair Brown finished with 2 interceptions, and the Penn State defensive end Smith Vilbert had 3 sacks on Jefferson. Arkansas safety Joe Faucha had an interception in the end zone and a sack during the second half. So a lot was happening. A lot of turnovers, as we can see, 2 for Penn State, 2 for Arkansas, but tons of yards offensively. Arkansas was 451. So it's like you said, it truly is that sort of Cinderella story. I mean, they weren't in the top 4, but by no means does that put any shade on how cool this story is. I mean, Sam Pittman, what a coach. And I have to bring it up again because I brought it up with Coach Leach. But when you get to these bowl games, I think there's a lot of reasons that coaches may not want to play in them, right? We have people sitting out because of NFL. We have people going to the transfer portal. We also have people, injuries, COVID, all of that is happening. And these guys are not necessarily required to play this game. And I think some of the coaches take advantage of that. But Coach Pittman said, we need to thank Penn State. Penn State had a lot of guys go to the NFL, and Coach Franklin elected to play the game. I respect that big time. So it sounds to me, as the second coach that's talking about this for a different reason, that there is some options to bow out of the game. And there are coaches that refuse to do it. And then there are those that don't. And I know we'll get there, but I'm just starting to tee it up.
Yeah, for sure. Matt, your thoughts on this one?
I'm gonna go ahead and get the Sam Pittman imitation out of the way. Yes, sir. Yeah, 9 wins. This was a special Arkansas team. I remember when Pittman got hired, all of us were like, the O-line coach from Georgia? Like, he's not even been a coordinator, and you're gonna hire the O-line coach for Georgia? Okay, Arkansas. I guess y'all are putting all your money into basketball. But apparently we were wrong, because old Sam Pittman's turned out to be a pretty good football coach. So I mean, kudos to him. Penn State kind of faltered there towards the end of the season. But I mean, that's still I hate to say this, a quality Big Ten team. But again, I think it's the little feather in the cap of the Arkansas season. You can't shove your nose at a 9-win season. You just can't, especially when you play in the hardest conference in the country. So yeah, that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, no, it's a great story. Really, really happy for Sam. It's such a cool thing.
353 yards of rushing is a lot, though.
Yes,
it's a lot.
That's
so there's that.
That's dictating your will.
That means the hog mollies down in the trenches were pushing people around a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. Let's talk about Iowa versus Kentucky in the Verbo Citrus Bowl from Camping World Stadium in Orlando, Florida. Kentucky, yeah, they pulled this one out, 20-17. Both Jesse and I had the same margin of victory. So we both get 2 points for this one. I said Kentucky would get to 10 wins this year. I honestly said that for the season, though, so I guess I wasn't technically correct. But hey, bowl win got them there, and they finally did that. What a year that they've put together. You know, all things considered, this game was a heavyweight fight. I think that I kind of anticipated that. Talking about just the personality of these two teams and what they want to do. Kentucky in that fight just happened to land the last blow. And I think I texted you guys during the game, but like, have a day, Wan'Dale Robinson. I mean, what a game. 10 catches, 170 yards. And then Chris Rodriguez had over 100 yards on the ground, including the game-winning touchdown with 1:48 left. So yeah, I mean, that was it was a really entertaining game. I was excited to see Kentucky pull it out and represent the SEC against a really, you know, for the most part, a quality Iowa team. So, so Matt, let's start with you this time. What are your thoughts on this game?
Well, first off, it made me kind of giggle a little bit when I saw Kirk Ferentz look so sad at the end of this game, because dude's been at Iowa since like 1968. So, you know, he's won some ball games there.
Right.
The kind of the stat, I didn't have a chance to watch the game, but the stat line that kind of jumped out at me was Spencer Petras, who's the Iowa quarterback, threw 3 picks in this game. You take those 3 picks off and convert at least one of them to points, the outlook of this game's a little bit different. So kudos to Kentucky for you know, playing their game, doing what they need to. The other thing that really stood out to me when I looked at the stat line for this was time of possession. Iowa had 22 minutes of possession. Kentucky had 37, almost 38. So really kind of maintaining the flow of the game, controlling the ball, playing the game on your terms, which is exactly what you would expect Kentucky's coach to want to do. So kudos to Stoops. Again, Kentucky continues to build. One of these days they may mess around and win the East, and that would be interesting to see. I would hate that for Tennessee, but that would be that'd be an interesting trip to Atlanta for Kentucky, I think.
Yeah, I mean, they were undefeated when they came to Georgia. What was it? Both teams were 6-0 or something like that.
Yeah, that was I think it was week 6.
Yeah,
week 7.
So yeah,
Jesse, had a great season this season too.
Yeah, Jesse, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a broken record, but I know they were without several players, down several key players, mind you, because of COVID and other injuries. And with those players out, it's like you mentioned, they needed big games from Chris Rodriguez and Wan'Dale Robinson, and they got them from both of them. I know you mentioned, but over 100 yards for both of those guys, especially the one from Robinson, where it was a 52-yard completion that set up the game-winning touchdown. So just awesome performance from those guys. I think also defensively, an awesome performance. This Iowa team was nothing to scoff at. They had done a really good job, and forcing 3 interceptions, you know, coverage or being there, making sure that you're getting hands on the ball is a great thing. So kudos to them. This is another really cool story, really cool program developing in the SEC.
For sure. All right. Let's go ahead and get to what?
Nothing. I just know where we're going next. And
Baylor.
It
Baylor versus Ole Miss, the All-State Sugar Bowl from Caesars Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana, which, as I said, Caesar did not stay there. So if you were wondering, Baylor won this one 21-7. Nobody got the point. And guys, I know we talk about this a lot on the show. If you're wondering why guys skip bowl games, this is like the epitome of the reason why. Ole Miss's 3rd series, Matt Corral was sacked from behind, rolled up on. Afterwards, he couldn't put weight on his right foot. You know, obviously you could see him on the sidelines on crutches after that, watching the rest of the game. They had to bring in, they had to bring in freshman Luke Altmaier. Which what I saw of him, he looked pretty good. I know he had a tip pass. It was intercepted and returned for like a 96-yard touchdown, which is the longest in Sugar Bowl history, by the way. But it really felt like the team was kind of deflated after he went. I mean, understandably so. Obviously, I know they mentally they understand that they have to put one foot in front of the other and continue. But I know that's tough. I know Kiffin even said that he probably let the team down a little bit. He was really sad for Matt after that. But yeah, I mean, you know, obviously I hate to see that. Best of luck to Matt Corral. We wish him a full recovery. Hopefully his draft stock is not affected too much. And he hopefully has a bright future ahead of him. Hate to see that for sure. But yeah, that's why you see this. That's why you see guys skip out on games. And I know they get flack for it. But at the same time, when you see stuff like this, I can completely understand it. So yeah, Jesse, let's start with you this time. What were your thoughts on the Sugar Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest story was obviously Matt Corral, and I have not been shy about saying I'm not a Matt Corral fan. I'm not an Ole Miss fan. I'm not a Lane Kiffin fan. I'm not there. But I had a lot of respect going into this game that Matt Corral wanted to play it because he does have a high draft stock, or did, and I hope he still does. But he wanted to finish this out with his team and really be a leader on his team. And I thought that was so amazing. And knowing that something like this could happen and did end up happening to him, you could see his emotion on the sideline. Like I said, he was visibly sobbing on the sideline, and it just broke your heart. And I think you could see the way that it affected his teammates. He clearly is a leader on that team, not just for the offense, but overall a leader on that team, and kind of helps set the tone, helps people get their head right when things start to shift in momentum and ground that team. And so I think that was a huge, huge turning point. Had they not knocked out Matt Corral, I don't know that this game would have gone the way it did. My kudos to Luke Altmaier to step in as a freshman and come in a situation where you definitely did not think you were going to play, and to have to just take over all that responsibility, fill those very large shoes. It's not easy to do. And he did. He looked pretty decent. I mean, yeah, he had some flaws, but of course he's going to. He hasn't had a lot of time of possession at all. So kudos to him. But yeah, I mean, it's tough to see, right? Like, you hate to see it. And unfortunately, the defense for Ole Miss was just not able to shut down Baylor's offense. So we'll see what happens. Again, I hope Matt Corral's draft stock is still as high as it was. I think of someone like Tua Tagovailoa, who did get hurt right before, he went into the NFL draft. They were still unsure about how he was healing, and he was still drafted and is now a starting quarterback in the NFL. So hopefully that's the case for Mr. Corral as well.
And Tua had a really severe injury too. Wasn't it the hip?
Bad hip.
It was a
Bad.
hip dysplasia, I think's what they was called. The whole thing just basically
It was just bad.
They compared that to like a car accident. It was really bad.
It was a bad hit too.
Yeah.
I just looked it up, guys. Matt Corral's this is an article that came out of SI 3 days ago. Matt Corral's injury was just a sprained ankle. So it shouldn't mess with his draft stock at all. So he didn't tear anything, nothing got broken. So he should be okay.
Mm-hmm. Good. Yeah. And so, I mean, like, I know he's even said as much, Jesse, you were talking about him being a leader, and he's even said as much down the stretch. That's why he's played hurt. He's had ankle issues a lot of this year, but has played through them. And he talked about it. He was like, because the guys are looking at me and I want them to see that I'm going to play tough. I'm going to play through stuff, and I'm going to be there even when I don't necessarily feel my best. And I want that to be an example to them, being like, well, he's the quarterback, if he can do it, maybe I can do it too. Just that whole mentality that he tries to bring to the whole team. Matt, what does that do to your team's psyche when the leader kind of goes down like that?
Well, I mean, we saw what happened in that particular game. It's hard to come back from that. This is a guy that is the nucleus of that entire offense. He's the guy that runs the plays. He's the guy that is leading the team down the field. And it's hard to recover from that. And, where was the quote? I just had it in front of me. Jerry and Ely said, quote, "We were devastated, but we still had a game to play." I mean, if it's hard to walk that back. And then for a freshman to come in, in the Sugar Bowl, to put the team on your back like that, it's a tall bill. There's not a lot you can do there. So kudos to Matt Corral for sticking it out. There's been a lot of discussion. I mean, Kirk Herbstreit just got himself in trouble a couple of days ago talking about how these guys that are opting out should be playing, and there's been a lot of conjecture back and forth on what people should do and what they shouldn't do. But at the end of the day, and this is just my personal opinion, at the end of the day, it's a business decision. I can either safeguard my future, and I know I'm going to get drafted somewhere. And these guys they know exactly where they're going. It's not like they're willy-nilly saying, well, I'll go third round, whatever, it'll be fine. They know that which round they're going in. They know where their stock is. So it's a business decision. And we hate to say that because, college football is supposed to not be about money, but unfortunately, college football, like most sports or like most things in life, revolve around money. So in this case, Matt Corral gambled. It cost him, not too much, we hope. But I mean, you can't begrudge a kid, from making a business decision. It's like when people transfer, it's like when all those guys transferred from Tennessee last season. I wasn't real thrilled with it, but I also understood it's a business decision. Henry To'oTo'o going to Alabama hurt like hell, but at the end of the day, it was a business decision. He's trying to get to the league. The best place to go is to Bama to go get in the league. You do what you have to. I mean, it stinks, but it is what it is.
It's tough, right? Like I see both sides, obviously. I see you wanting to finish out with your team. I see, especially if you're a senior that is not going to the draft, you want to do well. You want to finish out. You want all of those guys that got you there to be there with you when you're on that field and give you the best chance of having a winning game to finish out your entire football career. I get that. I also get that it sucks because for teams like this who are not playing in a playoff game, they can sit out. Imagine Stetson Bennett saying, I'm going to sit out, or Pickens, or imagine, God forbid, Bryce Young. Anybody that's playing in a playoff spot decide that they're going to sit out. That's not going to happen. That sucks. There's a Natty on the line. So It is tough, right? Because the ones who are in the biggest game of their lives thus far don't get a chance really to sit out. They could, but they're not going to. And then the lower ones, they can get a chance to sit out. So I see it both ways. You're absolutely right. It is a business decision. There is a big chunk of change difference between going top 15 and going somewhere in the second round. Yeah. Huge difference. And injury factors into that.
You know how you fix that?
How do you fix it? Wes? I think you and me are on the same wavelength.
More playoff games.
Bingo! That's exactly what I was going to say. Make them meaningful.
Yeah, exactly.
Listen, nobody wants to blow out their ACL and lose draft stock because you got hurt in the Boca Raton Bowl. Like nobody wants that.
Ticket Smarter Birmingham Bowl.
Like nobody wants that. So make the bowl games mean something. And then if you get these rinky-dink, Sam's Garage Bowl in, I don't know, Portsmouth, Iowa, then okay, fine. You can opt out of that. Nobody's going to care. Right. But you can't opt out of the Sugar Bowl. You can't opt out of the Rose Bowl. You can't.
Right. And then at that point, you're talking about instead of, like top 10 teams in the country with people sitting out, you're talking about teams that finish 6-6 and are just barely making it and stuff like that. Those guys are probably going to sit out. Whereas these teams that have a shot at the playoffs, no matter what you make that number, if it's a lot more playoff games, or at least a decent amount more playoff games, you're not having that discussion. So, all right. So the final SEC bowl game was actually last night as we record. LSU versus Kansas State, the Tax Act Texas Bowl from NRG Stadium in Houston, Texas. Yeah.
LSU made a bowl game.
So they finished 6-6 to play the 7-5 Kansas State.
Sorry. If you're an LSU fan, I'm sorry. I had to take that.
I felt bad for their interim coach. Gosh, I can't remember his name, but he's like the O-line coach. But he put it in such a bad situation. I mean, he's first of all right. Well, obviously, I haven't said the score yet, but Kansas just dominated this one, 42-20. That is not indicative of the feel of this game, because I think a lot of those points for LSU were scored later on. LSU only had 38-39 scholarship players available for this game, including only one quarterback, Garrett Nussmeier, whose backup is listed as Tavion Falk. Anyway, instead of, I guess, putting him at risk or whatever, they decided to start Jontre Kirkland at quarterback, a wide receiver who has not played quarterback since high school.
Awesome.
So that went about as you might expect. Although he did throw 3 touchdowns, but he only threw the ball 11 times, completed 7 of them. That's a pretty good average. Completed 7 passes for 3 touchdowns.
QB rating's pretty good.
Yeah. And 2 of those were interceptions. So technically he completed it a bunch of times.
Completed a bunch of passes.
9 of 11. Yeah. So anyway, so yeah, I mean, like I said, a lot of those points came later on. Kansas State just dominated this one. It wasn't even really close. Matt, did you have any thoughts on this one? I know you were surprised to see LSU in a bowl game. I think many of us were.
I remembered LSU was in a bowl game.
Yeah.
But that's rough because nobody wakes up and says, "Oh, Kansas State's a great football team." It's not 1999. They're not rocking the same way they were. So,
yeah,
LSU's in a weird place. You know, that's that transition. They're bringing in
Brian Kelly.
Brian Kelly.
Yeah, he wants to hang out with his family. God,
which they did talk to him about. By the way, he was in the booth, and they did discuss that with him. The fake accent.
If you're, you should be on the. Okay.
I guess
it's weird to be on the field, right? Because then it's like, do you talk to the interim head coach and be like, like you can't do that. You gotta be away.
Or just be standing there with like a clipboard and be like, I wouldn't do that.
Did they ask him about the family thing? They did. What did he say?
They did actually talk about
the game. I didn't even know the game was on.
Yeah, it was something to see. That's for sure. He admitted that he's like, yeah, I am from Massachusetts, and he was just talking about how he's just trying to blend in. He's trying to assimilate himself and his family into the culture, as it were. So
see, that just comes off as
there's assimilation and then there's pandering. He was pandering.
He's family. He's trying to get that gold and yellow.
I love his ability to turn it off and on at will. It's just it's great.
Not even a good one. It's
not good. It's awful.
And hold on. So that's not the only good thing. They also asked him about the so I don't know if you've seen they just had a 5-star quarterback commit to LSU, and he was seen. The 2 of them were together, standing back to back, dancing. While the camera pans around them, and the 2 of them are dancing.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Brian Kelly's doing his whatever you call that, his old
white
man
boy dance,
old white man dance,
old white man dance. Yeah, and they were like, what's up with that? And he was like, well, when your 5-star quarterback says you need to dance for a video, you just do it. So,
could you imagine Nick Saban doing that for a recruit?
Nick Saban did the Cupid Shuffle for a recruit.
Oh my God!
A couple of years ago, there's video of him doing the Cupid Shuffle.
Wasn't it at a wedding?
He's at a recruit's house.
Oh man,
I just lost some respect for Nick.
to be a fly on the wall there.
I bet he got that back when that kid got on campus, though. He's making that kid run wind sprints. Not so funny now, making the Cupid Shuffle, is it? Run, you son of a gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
But he also got the recruit, so I don't think he cares.
Yeah. So that was interesting. Jesse, did you have any thoughts on this game?
I mean, it's embarrassing, but a good win, a first bowl victory for Kansas State's head coach Chris Kleiman. And their running back's name is Deuce Vaughn, so that's kind of fun. And he exploded for 146 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. Their quarterback Skylar Thompson threw for 259 yards and a trio of scores, including one to Deuce. And I think LSU had hoped to carry sort of some positive momentum from their upset win over Texas A&M in that finale of the regular season, but that didn't happen because of transfers, injury, and they just haven't been good this year. So
I love that. That's the third point. They're just not good.
They're not good right now.
Yeah, I know. I completely agree. It's like we said, kind of about Florida. It's one of those interesting situations where you have the transition period. You just sort of getting. It sounds weird to say, let's just get through the bowl game, but that's kind of what you're seeing with a lot of these teams, especially
Yep.
ones going through a coaching change. So, so yeah. All right. Well, that does it for the bowl games. Current pick'em standings. I've got 52. Matt's got 40, and Jesse has 38. So. I think that's it. Sorry, but
I think that's it.
I was trying to do the math, and I was like, well, the last game's
No.
worth 6, so unless there's a way to lose points, which I don't think we figured that in, I don't know. So anyway, hey, I don't think I've won before.
Wait a minute now, Wes. This is the first year you've actually won, isn't it? Yeah. Hey.
Yeah. I was gonna
Didn't
say
you
this
win
is.
last season?
No, Matt
season.
won last season.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then I think you won the season.
I think you won the season before that, and then I think the first season we weren't doing this, and I can't. Yeah. So I can't remember what we did the second season. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah. So
Congratulations.
All right. Woohoo! Yay. All right. So I know there's some news floating out there, but I don't really have anything of substance right now. Because we just have a lot more to talk about too. Let's go ahead.
Saban did weigh in on whether the playoffs should be expanded or not.
Yeah.
Well, he kind of weighed in. He basically said it's not his decision.
I was going to say that's what I heard.
He did say, "Why would you want to expand it? Look what happened in the semifinals." Essentially,
He's not wrong.
Because both those were blowouts. So
this is true, but I mean, gosh, I mean, I don't know.
But more of those caliber teams would be playing each other, theoretically. Also, a little tidbit. This was the 15th anniversary of when Saban walked into Tuscaloosa. So,
yay!
And yeah, all right.
Yeah, no, you can tell. You can tell me and Wes are real excited about that one, Jesse.
And the rest of the country has been in misery ever since. So
and the rest of the Saban effect has ruined college football. Anyway, let's move on.
All right. Let's move to the opinion segment.
I was going to say, while we're sharing strong opinions, let's just go ahead and get to our opinion segment.
Sir, if I may venture an opinion.
I'm not really interested in your opinion, 3PO.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
All right, so this one, yeah. Oh man.
Wait a minute. Wait. I feel like where's my tinfoil at? I gotta find my tinfoil. Dang it, I don't have it.
Gosh, Matt without a prop. It's just so sad. Anyway, so all right. Let's pose a question here. Did someone or perhaps a group of people within Texas A&M's leadership pull the team out of the bowl game on purpose? I know it was it was COVID was what was mentioned as the reason, lack of players, et cetera. But let's look at this a little bit closer. Okay. Their quarterback is in the transfer portal, Zach Calzada, with another quarterback coming off injury, Haynes King. And then you have your other QBs are fresh and untested. Currently, Texas A&M has the #1 recruiting class right now. And, there might be a little bit of trying to maintain that image instead of getting trounced by Wake Forest in the Gator Bowl. Do you guys think that could be a thing?
Who do you want to go first?
Jesse, you look like you're super eager. So I
already know what her answer is.
Yeah, because I brought this up when we watched Florida. As soon as I heard that A&M was pulling out of this bowl, my wheels started turning. And of course, I hate Jimbo Fisher, but it goes beyond that because as I mentioned, it was kind of threading the storyline throughout the show. So many teams had injury, had people sitting out for the NFL and had COVID issues, and they still played.
Right.
It wasn't necessarily what they wanted to do, but their players deserve to be there. They earned a spot there and they wanted to play. You have an 80-man roster and you can't come up with enough players. Yeah, they're not going to be the cream of the crop necessarily, but
unless you started a wide receiver at quarterback.
Exactly. And they had just lost to LSU to finish out the regular season. Not a great look. QB goes into the transfer portal. Other QB still fresh off injury, if maybe still even injured. And then you have QBs that have not gotten any playing time, and you got a number one recruiting class. You're not going to tell me that there's not even a little bit of a chance that they were nervous that they were going to lose a bowl game. They found the perfect excuse with COVID and decided, well, we'll just play and lose. No, Jimbo Fisher's not going to do that. He's not going to lose to Wake Forest in the Gator Bowl. He's also not going to risk any of his players getting hurt because he needs them. Absolutely not. You're never going to be able to convince me that this was not some sort of a conspiracy. I'm bought in. I've got my tinfoil hat on. I am here. And the A&M fans can hate me all they want. I don't care. Because you've seen enough coaches mention how much they respect the coaches that decided to play.
Right.
And to me, that seems strange.
Right.
Because you don't hear that in the past couple of years. You don't hear them say, I really appreciate them showing up and deciding to play. Was it a decision?
Matt?
The conspiracy theories that are being bandied about right now are just absolutely ridiculous and overblown. Listen, you're telling me there's a smoke-filled room in Aggie Land
In the room where it happened.
where a bunch of boosters and Jimbo have all got their boots kicked up on a table, drinking bourbon, saying, "Yeah, dude, Clay, I don't think we should play in this game." You're telling me that's happened?
Yes, exactly.
I don't believe that for a second. Surely Jimbo Fisher, who is a known competitor, would take whatever strides he had to get into. I can't have a hard time imagining that a football coach said, "Yeah, I don't want to play
Gator
this
Bowl. He was excited about the Gator Bowl.
game." Gator Bowl has a very extensive history.
Matt, I can't tell if you're serious or joking.
I'm not. I'm totally making it up. I'm just playing around. We all know that they pulled out of this thing because Jimbo didn't want to look bad. Come on now. Jimbo Fisher we're talking about.
Yes.
He does not need help looking bad. Christmas tree in 2019, for God's sake. Yeah, it just
His other one got broken, Matt. He had to get a replacement.
Listen, I agree with Jesse. I was just playing earlier. The tinfoil hats do need to come on here. Yeah, not a doubt in my mind that Texas A&M said, you know what, we don't want to risk our number one recruiting class or looking bad, and it's the Gator Bowl. We're out of this thing. So
all right,
they use COVID as cover.
So we are 100% 3 for 3 on this then, because
Well, you
I
haven't told us. You're
I am
okay.
100% on board with this.
Good.
Because I mean, it makes sense, right? If you sit back and you just look at what's going on here, look, you're probably not going to have any good options at quarterback. You have the number one recruiting class, like you said. If you have the current number one recruiting class intact, you're not going to risk blowing that apart by losing probably by a lot to Wake Forest in the Gator Bowl, as you mentioned. And yeah, I just don't think that they wanted to risk that. I don't know if it was Jimbo. I mean, I'm sure he had a big hand in it, but I think I don't know about a smoke-filled room with bourbon and stuff, but it's probably something like that where
a smoke-filled Zoom call.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Jimbo in his well, I was going to say he can afford any kind of house to sit in at this point, but yeah, it's filled with smoke and bourbon wherever it is. But although if you watch what is it, those SEC network commercials, doesn't he live in like some cabin or something? He's like grilling.
He would. He totally would.
But
that just made Jesse angry just hearing that. Wes.
I know. I just 10 million. What are you doing? I just
right. Yeah. So I agree. I completely agree 100%. And I want to know more. I want somebody to do a deep dive into this and have one of those like 30 for 30s afterwards. where we get the complete story.
Call me. I will be in it. I volunteer. Please.
Yeah. You know, one of those where they have the video of Jimbo and then it freezes and turns to black and white, you know, where they, you know, paint him in a bad light and stuff like that. Yeah, no, I'm 100% on board. All right. Well, let's go ahead and talk about a little bit of listener feedback that we had.
You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
All right. So we've already talked about this a little bit, but the SEC went 5-7 this season. That would have been a 13 number complete if A&M had played, but they didn't. So what does that mean? So 5-7. Does that mean that the SEC sucks, or like, I don't know. What do we take home from that 5-7? I don't know. Whoever, just jump in. You don't know.
I don't know.
I was like, I think what it boils down to is several of those games, Tennessee, were poorly officiated. And things didn't go the way they should have gone. That's one loss.
That's what we take home from this.
That's what I'm taking home. And you got to remember too that 2 or 3 of these games are programs that are in major transitions right now. A couple of these programs are, new first-year head coaches. Although one of them's a win, but I think it's a weird time right now in the SEC where we're bringing in new people, old people are leaving, and it's just. I don't think that's indicative of the strength of the conference. Because when you look
want to know what is indicative of the strength of the conference, the fact that the national championship is all SEC.
Yeah, that kind of tells me something too.
Well, and we even talked about that when the teams were playing each other. We keep talking about, what if there's a Georgia-Alabama rematch? But for it was a possibility that we could have no SEC teams in the national championship. But here we are. So, by the way, this question was submitted by Teddy. Shout out to Teddy. I appreciate that. But yeah, I think probably what it indicates, I think we used to pride ourselves on the ability for even mid-tier teams and to some extent lower tier teams in the SEC competing nationwide. I don't think that that's necessarily the case now. But that's a good point as well about teams that are in transition, which we do have a few of those right now that are historically good teams that are going through a transition. And so we'll see. I think it's more of an indication of the state of a few of the teams in the SEC that typically do well. And also it's a little bit top heavy right now. You got your teams, your Bamas and your Georgias that are going to do well. And then you have the others mid-tier to lower tier that aren't going to necessarily represent well against other conferences. So,
and then you have Vanderbilt, who didn't lose in a bowl game or win a bowl game.
Did y'all see? Speaking of Vanderbilt, let me get back on my high horse for a minute. Did y'all see the tweet that Vanderbilt Athletics sent out after that game, after the Tennessee pick?
It's not. Can't say that I followed them.
The Tennessee Purdue game. They put a graphic up, or they put a picture up, or a tweet up. I can't talk because again the Fury's coming back. They put a tweet up that said teams that have won in Nissan Stadium this season. And it was a check mark with Purdue and an X mark with Tennessee. And I'm like, what?
Who is they? Who put this?
Vanderbilt's athletic department.
Oh, my.
They tweeted that. And oh, goodness, fall Twitter went to town.
I'm surprised they did that.
They went.
Me too.
They went there. They did.
I wonder if it's since been deleted. Because that's just,
I
don't think so. I'll look for it and send the tweet.
Is it their football Twitter or
no,
is it like
it's
overall?
I think it was their athletic department, if I remember correctly.
That's just a bad look.
It was a hot, bloody mess because I got involved in it, and the rest of all Twitter went to town on it, like you would expect. It was an awful take. Most people were like, you guys didn't even make a bowl. You didn't even win for conference game this year. Sit down and shut up.
Vandy's usually so chill about stuff. That's
that
surprising.
Tweet is still there.
Wow.
Teams who won in Nashville this year: Purdue check mark, Vanderbilt check mark, Tennessee X mark.
I'm shocked that got approved. I'm
shocked it's still there.
Shooketh.
It'd be one of those where it conveniently disappears later.
I'm gonna tag you guys in it right now, so
okay,
that way you can find it, because it is a interesting tweet, to say the least.
Yeah. All right.
Whoa.
Well, Vandy's athletic department do better on that. So
Be nice.
yeah. All right. Well, so that does it for our listener feedback. Let's talk about the only upcoming game of next week, and that is the national championship.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
All right. Yeah, that's number 3 Georgia, 13-1 versus number 1 Alabama, also 13-1. The CFP National Championship presented by AT&T from Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Which, by the way, that stadium is very imposing. If you've ever driven by it, it's just a big brick building. I love that stadium.
It's fantastic inside.
It's a really nice looking stadium.
And the hotel, like, literally connected to it. Great.
Yeah.
I just drove by it.
Yeah, I've driven by it as well, and it is an impressive building for sure.
Beautiful field.
All right, so look, I mean, this one, I feel like it's been like analyzed like almost every single way you can imagine it at this point. Not only have these teams already played each other, but we've had some time now for people to discuss as well, and people have just torn it apart this way and that. I think the answer to this one is simple. I mean, I think if the Dogs can pressure Bryce Young and, sack him, get him to make some throws that he doesn't want to make, I think they have a chance to win in this one. If they don't get pressure, I mean, you might as well just chalk this one up, put it in the history books for Bama, just like the SEC championship. I think it's kind of that simple. Now, look, I know Robinson had an incredible game against Cincy, not discounting their running game, but I think it starts with the pressure up front. And I think if they're able to get to Bryce Young, they're also going to be able to kind of disrupt the running game as well. So that pressure and that ability to control the line of scrimmage is going to be key, I think. So we'll see who wins that battle at the line of scrimmage. My only hope is that Georgia made some kind of adjustment, any kind of adjustment to slow Bama's offense, especially on the back end. I know Mechie's out, so that's going to be a little bit different. But Jamison Williams showed that it doesn't really matter. He can make plays, on his own too. So it doesn't really matter. I don't think that's too much of a factor, honestly, to be honest with you. It's going to be a battle up front. That's going to be where things are decided, I think. So I picked last game between Bama and Georgia to reverse the juju, and that didn't work. So that logic's out the window. I'm just going to pick what I want this time. I'm going Georgia 31-24. So, Jesse, what is your prediction? And I'm going to go ahead and put
as I said, I did not want this to be the game. I wanted Bama, Michigan. I felt really comfortable with that. I don't feel comfortable. Like Matt mentioned earlier, it's really hard to play a team twice. Back in 2011, I think we probably all remember LSU was ranked number 1 and we were ranked number 2. We played them at home in the regular season. It was a game of field goals. It was one of the worst games I have ever attended in my life. And we lost. But somehow, because we were still in the BCS system, we were able to go to a Natty against LSU, and we didn't let them get across the 50-yard line at all.
I remember that.
So, worked out in my favor that time. Don't like this time. But I am still going to pick the Crimson Tide because I know you mentioned it. Obviously, they have to get pressure on our offense, but I think because we have started to expand it a little bit, it's not just that Bryce Young bomb down the field. We're able to, connect with Ja'Cory Brooks. We're able to connect with Slade Bolden, get those short passes out there. We're able to get the run game going with Brian Robinson. So I do feel a little bit better about that, hoping that our offense clicks on all cylinders and that our defense is still there and that Will Anderson wrecks Stetson Bennett's life. So
wow.
I'm hot. I can't lose to Georgia. I'd rather lose to Auburn.
Well, you haven't for the past 7 times. So,
I would. I just honestly would. But I'm picking the Tide in a close one, 27-24.
All right. Matt, your thoughts.
I'm not going to make a pick. I'm going to use this time allotted to me to talk about how important it is to read with your children every night. 30 minutes here and there every couple of days is just kidding.
And spay and neuter your pets.
Both are important.
Both are very important. Anybody who knows me knows that I love football. I really enjoy talking football, but anybody that knows me personally knows I'm also a huge nerd. So with that in mind, I've decided this year, as part of my resolution, is I'm going to take more risks. So I'm going to take more risks this year. So I don't know if anybody recognizes what, stupid.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is.
it's the TARDIS.
It's not, ignore that. That's just the print. This is a bag, a dice bag. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go into the bag and I'm going to remove several things. Hold on a minute.
You're going into the Lane Kiffin bag of tricks and
All right.
just
Here we go.
God.
So what I've got is I've got a 6-sided die. Almost lost one. And I still got it. And then I'm also going to use the 9-sided die because this is D&D dice and we're nerds. So I'm going to pick my prediction based strictly off luck, nothing going into it, no analysis, just risk. And here we go. Georgia's the red dice, Bama's the blue dice, and the score will be.
what?
You didn't.
Bama will win this thing 43-22. There you go.
I love
kids.
that outcome. I pray to God that's the outcome.
There's my official pick.
Matt, if that's what it ends up being, I just quit. I officially retire.
You can't retire because then me and Jesse will be in charge and the podcast won't go on.
Oh man,
it'll just be weird.
Yeah, I just it's gonna.
But in all seriousness, I do think Bama wins this thing by 2 touchdowns. But that's just me. I didn't see anything in the SEC championship game that made me think that Bama's going to be able to hang, or Georgia's going to be able to hang. But weirder things have happened.
That's a good point. Like I said, my only hope is that I saw this happen with us in Auburn. Actually, when we went to the last national championship, we just got blown out by them in the regular season, and then actually had something for them in the SEC championship. Not really sure what changed, but obviously they analyze things and make adjustments, and that's, like I said before, adjustments are going to be key, not only from last game to this game, but Stetson Bennett even mentioned it when they were talking to him about what do you expect against Alabama, and he said, look, they may come out with something completely different against us than they did last time. And then at that point, he said, I don't think they will, but if they do, at that point, it's just going to be up to us to adjust. And I think it's the same for both teams, really. So we'll see who comes out doing what and who can make adjustments. So
also, can we all just agree that making the game an 8 p.m. game on a Monday is cruel?
I didn't realize it was
bad.
that late.
Yeah, it's
so
8
bad.
p.m.
I wasn't going to watch it anyway, but yeah.
It sucks. It's on a Monday at 8 o'clock.
Don't laugh, Wes. I'm not kidding. I'm not watching that crap. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'll watch the highlights after. I'll look at the stat line. I'm not watching that game.
Jesse, you talk about you can't lose to Georgia. You realize I've had to put up with losing to Alabama for the last 7 times. How do you like? What I don't. At this point, it's yes, I want the Dogs to win, but I also want them to win for people to just shut up, right?
Trust me.
Like,
nope. Never mind.
I don't mean you. I know you don't understand. I know that's not what you want. But from that standpoint of
I don't know if I think everybody, if you talk to most SEC team fans, they're probably all going to root for Bama.
Maybe everyone else is just
I think everybody else is just
like you are
desensitized to Bama winning national championships, and nobody wants Georgia to do that.
It's kind of like, well, if we have to put up with somebody who's not us, then let it be who it's been for the past like 8 times.
The devil we know. The devil we know.
Right. Yeah. So, all right. From that standpoint, I understand that logic. It's still frustrating, but I get it. So, yeah, I think hopefully it'll be a good game. If it's not a good game, I think it'll probably be favor Bama because, well, we've seen this movie before. So anyway,
seen this movie a couple of times, Wes.
Yeah. I don't even get tricked into it anymore. I used to get tricked into it thinking I was going to have a different outcome, but now it's like, expect the worst, hope for the best type of thing. And that's my, gosh, I saw somebody who commented on one of our TikTok videos. Shout out to you guys, by the way. I appreciate everybody's feedback on TikTok. That's been really great. But somebody was like, that's how I watch all Georgia games now. I just sort of sit there and kind of just wait for something bad to happen. And then if it doesn't and good things happen, I'm just like really pleasantly surprised.
That's pretty much how I watch Tennessee games too. It's like, oh, this is going to be awful, but oh, look, it's not so. Oh, it's still awful.
Right. So, but see, here's the thing. Here's the thing with Georgia is like I get it. I get why people enjoy to hate Georgia, because I mean that's what we do with our rival teams, anyways. Other teams that are in the same conference. But it's funny. Everybody's like, well, Georgia's irrelevant. Georgia's this. Georgia's that. I'm like, Georgia's more relevant than most of the teams in the SEC have been, even for the past 40 years. But yet they're openly mocked like every year, just because. And let's be honest. And I'm going to say it. It hurts me physically to say this, but Nick Saban, probably the best coach to ever do it. Not probably, he is the best coach to ever do it. So the fact that Georgia is the runner-up is not even necessarily a slight or a cut. I mean, it's like you're a golfer playing in Tiger's prime, right? It doesn't mean that you're a terrible golfer or that you even, can't win the big one. It's just you're going up against someone who is the best. So, I hope Georgia wins, but we'll see. We'll see if Georgia can get that off their back, as it were. So, it's like I said, hopefully it'll be a fun one to watch for all, except for Matt, who's not going to. So
drink your coffee, people. It's going to be a late night.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I'm probably drinking some coffee, some black tea, maybe some other caffeinated beverages. I don't know.
Depends on how the game goes, because if it turns a different direction, you may start drinking something else.
This is true. That's a good point as well. So, all right,
that's for both of you, because I could totally.
Oh, I know.
I could totally see.
Oh, I know.
Jesse climbing into a bottle of wine after losing to Georgia.
Oh man,
it might be bourbon.
Of course,
if you drink bourbon, Jimbo's going to show up if you say his name 5 times. You'll stand in front of a mirror with a bottle of bourbon and a pair of cowboy boots on and go, Jimbo Fisher, Jimbo Fisher, Jimbo Fisher.
Literally what my nightmares are made of.
I can just see Jesse being like, what are you doing here? Get out of here. I hate you.
I just punch him. I would literally just punch him.
Oh, don't punch. He ain't done nothing to you.
I will be good.
And he'd be like, oh, sorry about that. Who are you? Anyway. All right.
Fine,
So speaking of fun, let's go for our Just for Fun segment. So in the theme of New Year's resolution, Happy New Year, by the way, to everyone. Our New Year's resolution, in this segment, we are each going to pick an SEC team and decide what their New Year's resolution would or should be. So I am going to go with Vandy, and I think that their resolution should be to have more fun, to just have fun. Just,
No, they've already had fun. Did you see that tweet? They had all the fun they get. No more fun. No fun of any kind.
Okay, well, not on social media. Direct your fun to the field, because you're probably not going to have a whole lot of it, especially against conference foes. I was also going to say Georgia's resolution should be not to get their hopes up. So that's another one. But that was my secondary one. I digress. Jesse, what are yours?
I think I'm going to have to pick Mizzou on this one. And their motto should be to actually do the little quippy things that Drinky says. Like, they should be tougher.
Yeah.
They should do that. They should circle some sort of like wagon on being better. Whatever those little motivational things are, they should start to do them. They have to be doers. That's their resolution. Don't be listeners, be doers.
I would love for them to walk into practice and there to be like literal wagons circled in the middle of the field.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just completely in the way. Like, they can't even practice. And they're like,
what is this? Sprints around them.
What is this, coach? Like, we're going to circle the wagons today. It's going to be great.
I think that would be a great strength and conditioning thing. Just pulling wagons.
Yeah, there you go.
It would work your lower body. I know that.
Sure.
It would be great.
Might be a little bit closer, too close to Oklahoma's wagon, though. I don't know. But
maybe
you get the sentiment of it, though. So,
but Missouri, that's where St. Louis is, and that's where the archway to the west was. A lot of wagons there. Yeah. So it makes sense.
Exactly. All right, Matt. What do you got?
I think Texas A&M. And I think Texas A&M should stop being so shady. That should be their
Wasn't
resolution.
me. I didn't say it.
Yep. It's stop being so shady because it's not a good look on A&M. Like that's the kind of crap we expect out of Texas, not y'all.
Right. Okay. All right. So A&M, don't be so shady.
It's spreading.
Also, another resolution for my own team, Tennessee, is to bolster the defense next season.
Yeah. That's an interesting flip-flop, Jesse. I noticed you picked Mizzou. Matt, you picked A&M. That's funny.
Oh yeah.
It's spreading.
Now, Jesse, here's the thing: who would win in a fight between Drinky and Jimbo?
Jimbo.
Yeah,
Jimbo bites. I promise you, he bites.
Jimbo's the kind of guy that would probably go for the lower territories.
Yeah, he does.
I feel like he would be a cheater. I don't know why. I've never met Jimbo.
He will poke your eyes out.
Eye gouging. Yeah, he would be a heel if he was in wrestling.
He would be that guy who, in a fight, he would be the first person that starts the blow to start the fight, and then he would drop back and watch everybody else fight. I think that's he's that guy.
Or he's the guy that it's supposed to be a fist fight, but all of a sudden he just like looks around and he finds like a bucket. I don't know why there's a bucket, but he finds it and he like hits you over the head with a bucket. And it's like, you weren't supposed to use props. You weren't supposed to do that. And then he bites you. I promise you.
We're gonna get A&M fans out the wazoo if we keep up with this.
They already hate me. It's fine.
Hits you with a spittoon and then bites you. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right.
Drinking cowers. He's just like, oh no.
Well, he's over there sitting there trying to figure out how to turn the lightsaber on.
Drinky would be there trying to look up in a book on how to settle intrapersonal conflicts or something.
Right.
He takes out the office book of like,
yes. Oh my God, Drinky is the Toby of the SEC. That's it. We just solved it. That's the reason why I can't stand him.
Especially for you.
Oh my God.
He's the Toby and Jimbo Fisher is the Ryan. Just sketchy.
Yeah, Jimbo Fisher is definitely Ryan.
I can just see
that would make a great just for fun segment later.
Yes.
Matt walking up to Drinky and being like, why are you the way that you are?
Drinky gets fired from Missouri and then he ends up as like a coordinator at Tennessee. No.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Or Drinky just he thinks it's like a shouting match instead of an actual fight, and he's just yelling cliches at people. Toughness Tuesday.
Circle the wagons.
All right.
Lord.
Anyway, all right.
We made it.
Thank you guys for listening to us. We would love to hear from you. If you'd like to hit us up on email, do so at pigskinsandpageantry@gmail.com. We can be found on Facebook at facebook.com/pigskinsandpageantry, Twitter at PPSCC Podcast, Instagram at Pigskins and Pageantry. Don't forget we're available for download on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, and most podcasting apps for iPhone, Android, and other operating systems. Appreciate you guys getting involved on YouTube and TikTok. That's actually been two of the biggest places people have gotten involved in the conversation, which is always fun. We appreciate that and look forward to that interaction. If you guys enjoy the show, we would love it if you take a moment to subscribe and review. We'd love a 5-star review to let people know how awesome we are and give us a little bit more visibility. Until next time, this is Wes, not getting my hopes up, but saying go Dogs.
Y'all, Will Anderson, I need you to wreck some lives, baby. Just remember, nobody is cute when they bark. Roll Tide.
She's not wrong. I mean, I agree with her. Listen, hey, basketball season's here, baby. It's dub season. Go Vols.